of the world. Oh my people, seek the truth, avoid the evil, learn Yahweh's ways. Torah Life. Hello everybody, it's Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries, and I want to do this week's Torah Parashah. I hope everyone's having a wonderful week. And this week's Torah Parashah is the 16th Torah in this cycle, and it's going to be from Exodus 13:17 to 17:16. And last week we saw Pharaoh finally letting the Israelites leave Egypt, and now they're wandering into the desert. And we continue here this week because we see Moses having choices of which way to go, and he takes the longer way because that's the way he was led to go. So he takes the longer way, and then we continue this week with that. But it says here in this week in Exodus 13:21, it says, Yahweh went ahead of them in a column of a cloud during the daytime to lead them on their way, and at nighttime he was a column of fire. So, you had Yahweh leading them. That was the significance of this. And he was a shining fire at nighttime. In the darkness he was a light. And in the daytime he was a cloud, so they can see him no matter where they were in the desert. They could see this cloud, and all they had to do was follow the cloud. So they were being led into the desert, out of Egypt, out of the slavery of man, and then following Yahweh into the freedom and the redemption that he can give everyone. So that's what it showed, and that's where we were, or where we are right now in the Torah stories of this cycle. So we see here many significant things this week, but we also have to remember, no matter where we are in life, everybody, we have Yahweh leading us. In the nighttime, in the daytime, no matter where, if you seek him, you will find him. He's always there. And sometimes people, they have tough times, and they get confused, they get emotional, and they start thinking with their human mind, and they start thinking with their human vision. Well, it's hard to see Yahweh when you start thinking that way, but when you think with your spiritual eyesight and your spiritual vision, that's when you see him clearly leading us in every circumstance of life. But we have to stick to his word, everybody. We got to stick to his Torah and stick to his guidelines. This week I was doing so much studying, and I just had an amazing time, because I met so many people in the last couple of weeks of the Christian mindset. And I said, for people to understand truly the message of Yeshua, they have to get out of this Christian mindset. And people that understand Torah understand that. As I say, you cannot understand the words of Messiah unless you understand Torah, because he taught Torah. He was known as the living Torah. But some Christians, or at least people with a Christian mindset, and when I say Christian mindset, I'm saying a church mindset. That might be a better way to say it, because the church is not following a biblical message, and they're not following the words of Yeshua. So for the most part, maybe there are some that are, but for the most part they're not. Well, the more I teach Torah, and the more I teach this information and the Torah portions, some people of the church mindset will call me legalistic, which again is a great compliment to me. I know we're not saved without Messiah, but I also know if we're truly saved, we should want to do the works that he wants us to do. But the church mindset says something different. So for those of you out there that think it's being legalistic, well, if I'm legalistic for following the Torah, well then so was David, and so was Jeremiah, and so was Yeshua himself. So that's good company to be in. Now we're going to continue with this week's Torah Parashah, and then I'm going to go over something very interesting about the book. Something I found in the book of Matthew. If we have time this week, we'll go over that. But this week we see in Exodus 14:11, Moses takes the children out into the desert, and all of a sudden they start grumbling. It says here in 14:11, why did you bring us out here? Was it to die? It says, was it because there weren't enough graves in Egypt that you brought us out here into the desert to die? And, but the next thing that's said, the reply that Yahweh gives Moses to tell the people, can be applied for all of Scripture, for all time, for any situation. And this is the message for everyone out there. I believe this is the significance of this reply has a lot to do with the world today and all of the story of all of Scripture. You see, you have the children of Israel being led into a desert, into the wilderness, not knowing what to expect. But they willingly go because they believe the grass has to be greener on the other side. Because where they are, it's not looking too good. They're slaves and they're oppressed, so they believe the grass is greener on the other side. Well, if Yahweh tells you the grass is greener on the other side, it will be, and you shouldn't doubt that. But sometimes we think the grass is green on the other side, and we go to the other side and we find out it's not. But here you have Yahweh leading them, so they should know right away. You know, there might be some different trials that you would have if you're following Yahweh, but if He's leading you, the grass is always going to be greener. As a matter of fact, you can't find greener grass than that. But here's the reply, and here's the amazing thing, everybody. He says, Moses answered the people, "Stop being fearful. Remain steady, and you will see Yahweh is going to save you." And that's the message of everything. That's the message of Yeshua right there that Yeshua gave about Yahweh as well. Stop being so fearful. Remain steady, and Yahweh will save you. And you will see it. You will see how He saves you. That's it right there, everybody. That is amazing. And I'm going to say it again because it's so amazing. No matter where you are in life, no matter what's going on and everything else, start following Yahweh, and then remain and stop being fearful of the world today, and then remain steady, and you will see how Yahweh is going to save you. And then to add the icing on the cake, so to say, he says, just calm yourselves down. Just calm yourselves down now. So just calm yourselves down. Remain steady, and stop being so fearful, and you'll see how Yahweh saves you. Amazing, amazing. But we see here, you know, remember it says, you will see how Yahweh is going to save you. That's part of that. And then we see here, a couple of verses later, in Exodus 14:19, the people see how Yahweh saves them. You see, they were up against the sea parted, and they got through the sea. But it says here, in Exodus 14:19, it says, "Next, the angel of Yahweh, who was going ahead of the camp of Israel, moved away and went behind them, and the column of cloud moved away from in front of them and went behind them." So it went behind them to watch their back. So we just read, it says, you will see how Yahweh saves you. And then it says here, you know, they were being led by this cloud and this pillar of fire, but it went behind them to protect their backs. And then the sea opened up, they went through, and that protection was on their back, so nobody was following them. You see it right there. Just calm down, stay steady, and follow Him, and you'll be blessed. And that's what we have to learn, everybody. Now, it says here in Exodus 14:30 that on the day Yahweh saved the children of Israel from the Egyptians, Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the shore. You will see how Yahweh saved you. So they got to see them right there dead on the shore. So you will see how Yahweh saves you. And they believed in Yahweh and His servant Moses, as it says here. However, they didn't believe in Him too long, because it's just not too much longer here, where he says, but after traveling several days in the desert, they found no water. And this was in Exodus 15:22. They found no water. So they started to grumble again. And they said to Moses, why'd you bring us out here? We're going to die and all this. And Moses said, if you will listen intently to the voice of Yahweh, your Creator, do what He considers right, pay attention to His commands, and observe His laws, I will not afflict you with any disease I put upon you that I put upon the Egyptians, because I am your healer. I am your healer. That's Exodus 15:26, and it's one of the quotes I use more than all the quotes I use that the most in my health teachings. If you keep the commands and the statutes, all of them, of your Creator Yahweh, He will not put the same disease upon you that He's put upon the Egyptians. So you're not going to, this flood's not going to come over you again, and you're going to be drowning in the sea and laying at the shore dead, because that's what the Egyptians were just in. You're not going to suffer from the same plagues that the Egyptians just suffered from. Living in darkness. And all these other plagues that they just saw. It says, if you will diligently keep all my commands and statutes, I will not put the same diseases upon you that I put upon the Egyptians. The same discomforts, the same plagues that I put upon the Egyptians will not be put upon you if you diligently keep all my statutes and keep all my commands. But the children again had an issue, because it says here in Exodus 16, it says in Exodus 16, the second month after they left Egypt, in Exodus 16:1, it says the whole community of people came against Moses and Aaron again because they have no food. And they said, "What'd you bring us out here to starve to death? Why'd you go and do that? We don't want to starve to death." So he says, Yahweh says, "I will test them. I already told them to keep my commands. I already told them to not to worry, to just calm down and see how I will save them. And I showed them how I saved them. But now I'm going to test them. I'm going to give them a command and see if they follow it." He says, and then he gives them the manna, and he says to not leave any over the next day. So what do? They leave it over the next day. And what happens? That's failed test number one. So he gives them another chance. He says, well, now I will tell them, on the Sabbath is coming, so on Friday you take double the amount of bread on the 6th day. So on the 7th day, you won't have to go ahead and get more bread and everything else. What did they do? They went ahead, and they didn't do that either. So we see here, first he tells them in Exodus 16:19, no one is to leave any of it until morning. And then he goes again and tells them in Exodus 16:22, tomorrow is the holy Shabbat. So he says, make sure you bake what you want, but set aside till the morning the bread for the Shabbat. So first they failed because they didn't listen to him and they saved bread. Then he told them not. When he told them not to, then when he told them to do it, they didn't. It says, how long will you refuse to observe my mitzvahs and teachings? How long will you refuse to observe them? Now let's just remember that a second, everybody, and let's go here to 17:2. Again, the people quarreled again with Moses, and how long are they going to go on doing this? Well, here's what I wanted to say about Matthew, where I spoke about earlier, everyone. It says here in Exodus 16:28, how long will you refuse to observe my commands and my teachings? How long? Well, that goes back to people calling me legalistic. Well, he says clearly in the scriptures to keep his commands, to keep his guidelines, to keep his instructions. Grace is not an excuse to keep living in sin, which many people call it today. But we have Yeshua for a reason, everybody. And it says here in Matthew 7:13 and 7:14, it says, go through the narrow gate, for the gate that leads to destruction is wide and the road broad, and many traveled. But there's a narrow gate and a hard road that leads to life, and only few find it. So it says here in Matthew 13 and 14, it says, go through the narrow gate, for the gate that leads to destruction is wide and the road broad, and many traveled it. But the narrow gate is a hard road that leads to life, and only few find it. So again, you had Moses leading the children out of Israel, and they weren't taking the popular path. They were taking this unpopular path to lead them out, and they were being led by Yahweh here. So we have to understand this, everybody. Yeshua is that gate. And it's not a popular road. It might seem popular because somebody might proclaim Yeshua is their Messiah. But if you're not doing his will, if you're not following the guidelines, the instructions, the commandments of our Creator, you're not following that road. So the road is not very heavily traveled. So this road is not very traveled. But you know what? The road is hard only because you got to deal with the world calling you legalistic and all this stuff. But there's a joy in it, and it's the only road that leads to life. As it said, those that stick on this road will find it. So if somebody says, show me where Yeshua says to keep the guidelines and instructions of our Creator Yahweh, to keep the commands. Well, it says here, there's two roads. There's the narrow road, that's that's not very traveled, and then there's the wide road, the popular road that many people seem to go down. And that's what you have going on today in the church. You have a lot of people going down the popular road. What's the popular road? The popular road is to proclaim Yeshua with your lips, but your heart hasn't changed. Just like the children in the desert, they left Egypt, but Egypt didn't leave them. You know, lip service means nothing if your heart doesn't change, and your heart has to change, everyone. We're saved by Messiah. Praise Yahweh for Yeshua. But if we're truly saved, we should have every desire in our body to do the guidelines and instructions that He commanded us to do throughout all our generations. Alright, everybody. This is Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries. Thanks for checking out this week's Torah Parashah, and pass it along to others if they need to hear it. Until then, have a great day and a wonderful Shabbat next week. And Shalom, Shalom.
Come out of the world, oh my people, seek the truth, avoid the evil, learn Yahweh's ways, Torah life.